places in ours anymore. I can't be loved. Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Kendrick. This channel is all about life tips, motivation, and education. As y'all can see, I'm finally in my office. It's been probably about 2 months since I've actually recorded a video in my office. For some reason or another, I've just always been in my car. But I was thinking about what this week's video was going to be. I'm a little bit late. I think I'm 24 hours late. So if you do keep up with the channel, I do apologize. Before we actually get kicked off into the topic for today, be sure to go out on Instagram, follow me at Kendrick Coates, and then be sure to like and subscribe to this page. It truly helps me out, spread many of the messages and topics that I do talk about, and I'm sure other people out there could benefit from some of the messages that I do talk about. So today's topic is all about what is your coping mechanism? And I think I was listening to a video the other day when I was driving. It may have been a podcast, and they brought up a good point of how people cope and different things that people do to cope with whatever's going on in their life. And it made me think as far as how coping mechanisms work and what people do to cope with anxiety, depression, trauma. And some of those coping mechanisms can be extremely dangerous, especially depending on what your cope is. And so my question to you all is what is your coping mechanism? And what do I mean? I'll give you an example just to make it connect a little bit better. So we all have been in a relationship and we've all been heartbroken at some point or another in our lives. And depending on what path you take to heal from that relationship, you can find many times some people go to the gym and they're on the gym bandwagon and motivation because they've created a new them after the breakup. But then after they get to wherever they want to be, whether that be their looks, whether that be their weight, they fall off the bandwagon. And so that person may get into another relationship, it goes sideways, and then again they jump on the exercise or gym bandwagon, and then once they've gotten past that, they fall off that bandwagon. Other people fall into substances, sometimes to heal trauma, sometimes to numb pain of trauma that has not been healed from the past. Other people, it took me a long time to figure out what my cope is. My cope is if there's anything in my life that goes sideways or south or doesn't go as I had planned or envisioned, I jump into educating myself. And so I'll dive into learning about whether it be a trauma or whether it be a negative experience that I've had. I'll jump into and I'll go a month or two hard. Now, although that is my coping mechanism, I'm already into reading and books already. And so we have to be real about and also honest with what our coping mechanism is. Because as soon as we understand what our coping mechanism is, we can now understand ourselves a little bit better. But the problem is most people, I shouldn't say most, some people have coping mechanisms that is just a revolving door of toxicity, and it goes round and round and round and round. Another example, people will get into relationships, they'll go through a breakup, and then immediately they'll get into another relationship. That is a coping mechanism to somewhat numb the pain. I won't say this is for everybody, but just things that I've learned and things that I've done in the past. It's either to help yourself get over that last partner that you've dated, or to ignore all of the feelings that that partner once provided for you, and you want to easily mask those feelings. So again, we all have copes. I don't care how healthy or how focused or straight-minded you are, we all have certain copes or coping mechanisms that we all go through. But a lot of times people will ignore some of those feelings or copes that they do have because Here's the thing. This is why I talk about everyone needs to spend time going to a therapist. Everyone. It doesn't matter how well your life is going. It doesn't matter how much money you're making. It doesn't matter how fruitful your relationship is. We can all benefit from going to therapy. But people are like, oh no, I don't need that. And then 6 months, a year, 2 years later, when shit hits the fan, it's like, oh, well, I need to go see a therapist now. Or, oh, I need to reach out to a friend for some help. And the reason I can talk about these things, and again, I've said this before, many of the things that I talk about on my channel, I've gone through and I've experienced. So I'm giving you some of what I've learned in order for you not to go down that route. Now, I've been going to therapy, and I'm extremely vocal about this. I've been going to therapy for about 6 or 7 years, and there's still things that I'm learning now. And again, when I first was going to therapy, I did have a lot of things to work through. Now I'm trying to learn who I am on an even deeper level. And the one thing that I'm finding out is the more you know yourself, the less you put up with BS. The more you know yourself, the less you put up with bad behavior. The more you know yourself, the better your vision becomes in life of where you want to go. The more you know yourself, the more you invest in yourself. The problem is, in our society, a lot of people neglect learning who they are as a person, and they allow society, parents, dating partners define who they are as people. And then people go down this rabbit hole of not being happy. And again, I'm not going to put everybody in that circle or that bubble, but just look around. You know people that are dating constantly. They get rid of one partner, onto the next within days or weeks. You know people that cope and it's very toxic. You know people that deal with substance abuse. We all know those people. But the question is, what are those people doing for themselves? The saying is, we can lead a horse to the water, but we can't make that horse drink the water. I'm going to say that one more time, because if you're trying to help somebody, you have to understand, you can lead somebody to the water, or you can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make that horse drink the water. And we have to understand those things. So again, what is your coping mechanism? Do you have a toxic coping mechanism? Is your coping mechanism still sending you in this spiral of trauma, this spiral of depression, this spiral of unhappiness? Because if it is, why continue going down that route? Why continue ignoring you? Why continue ignoring putting the investment in yourself so you can get the relationships that you want, where you can see actually where you're going in life and what you want in life? We spend so much time, and I've said this before, we spend a lot of time trying to look for happiness in other people instead of actually looking for the happiness within ourselves. We can only be the person that brings ourselves happiness. If you depend on other people to try to make you happy, it's a dead-end road. I've been there before. That's why I talk about therapy. Have you gone to therapy? Have you considered going to therapy? I'm telling you, for me, it was the best investment that I've ever made in my life. Because now, 7 years into therapy, the things that I was dealing with in the past no longer come up, because I know how to work through those things. Let those things marinate. What's your coping mechanism? Until next time, I'm out.